All right. Hi, I'm Adam Koonsmiller here with RPG Geek at Gen Con 2013, and I'm joined by Randall Bills with Catalyst Game Labs. We're here to talk about the Shadowrun core rulebook and system. Yeah. So Randall, go ahead and take it away.
Well, Shadowrun, obviously, it's hard to believe it's coming up on 25 years history. I still remember, pimply-faced teenager walking in my local game store, Game Depot, and Dave and Patty still run it, so shout-outs to them. And that first edition, Larry Elmore cover, poster up on the wall, and I'm like, what is that? I have to have it right now. And all these years later, to be a part of it, to help do that, it's a dream come true. It's fantastic. This is the new 4th edition book. We released the PDF earlier in the summer, and the rule book barely squeaked out making it here to the show. It's in our warehouse now. So actually, first or second week of September should be available on store shelves. And Shadowrun, really, we're actually doing kind of a whole year of Shadowrun.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of good luck, good serendipity came down the pipeline that Jordan Wiseman, who was the original creator of Shadowrun, he acquired the rights and did his Kickstarter a little over a year ago for Shadowrun Returns, which was kind of a love letter homage update to the old NES game that was so popular back in the early 90s. And then Cliffhanger Productions, Jan and his team are doing Shadowrun Online. And then we have Shadowrun 5th edition. We're working on Crossfire, which is a deck building cooperative play game. I'm doing a design for Sprawl Gangers, which is a tactical miniature skirmish level game that's basically our vision of a new Necromunda, which I played a million times back in the day. We've got a board game coming. So all of that is about, how much can we make it so that if you love Shadowrun, or maybe you've seen Shadowrun and haven't quite gotten into the role-playing game, you can turn around a corner and trip over something and stand up with something that you're going to like to play.
All right.
So that's kind of the whole vision of our year of Shadowrun.
Now, for the role-playing system, how does this compare to the original system?
Well, you had the first system, which most people considered mostly unplayable. Shadowrun was always that game that you played despite the role-playing system.
Right.
Because the universe was just so amazingly
so rich
cool,
and interesting,
so evocative, so unusual. Even all these years later, I think it is one of the more unusual universes to play in. So the second edition kind of fixed that. 3rd edition really just kind of built off of 2nd edition. And then 4th edition, which I can't believe it's already been almost 7 years now when that came out. While it kept a fair amount of the basics, it's still D6s, you're still rolling tons of dice. Everyone knows Shadowrun for its infinite dice pools.
Right.
They actually changed quite a bit of it up. And it actually won an ENnie award at the time, and it really kind of opened up a lot more people. For the first time, it was a case of, hey, I'm going to play this game not just because I love the universe, but because the game system also works.
Okay.
So what we did in 5th edition was, again, we had that 7 years to be able to see that, this is still a fantastic foundation, but you could start to see the cracks in the walls. It's time to pull out the plaster and reframe a couple of doors and work on it. So if you played 4th edition at all, you're going to absolutely recognize the framework. We built off of that, and then we've gone in a couple of key areas to make changes. One of the biggest things we wanted to do is we wanted to make the runners the star of the show. Obviously, Shadowrun is all about guns and gear and cyberware, and that's all still in there. But we wanted to make sure that that was simply what helped you as the orc, as the troll, as that elf, be the star of your show. And to do some of that, we increased skills from just 1 to 6 to 1 to 12. That also gave the ability for that character to develop a little more across campaign play as opposed to just tacking on more weapons and more gear. So that was one of the angles we tried. Another angle, and it's actually kind of back here on the tagline, is everything has a price. Shadowrun from the absolute get-go was, okay, you can be more than human, but what is the price you're willing to pay?
Right.
How much essence are you going to give up, your life force, to become this over-the-top street samurai? But the mechanics didn't always accentuate that, didn't always enhance that aspect. And so we've gone through the rules, and one of the things in particular that we brought into play to try to, again, create that feeling of you have to make a choice, you don't get everything in your pony, was something called limits. And that's actually probably the single biggest change of 5th edition, is this idea that I'm going to roll a whole pile of dice, but I don't necessarily get to keep all the successes I have. There's going to be limits based on the spells that you're throwing, there's going to be limits on the guns that you're using.
The equipment you're wearing.
And so you could be, the most unbelievable street samurai that there is, but if you're holding a crappy gun, it's still a crappy gun.
Right.
You can only do so much with that. So, upgrade your gun. It creates levels of both within the game, but also just role-playing opportunities of, hey, my fixer is getting me this crappy gun, I gotta go to a new fixer, get new, try to get new stuff.
Are there also defensive abilities where I, as a character, can impose a limit on you when you try to do things to me or anything like that?
More in the sense, and that's actually where that was kind of introduced in 4th edition. We tried to enhance that. There's a lot of stuff that the deckers can do. So, the deckers, your hackers, they start in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd edition. 4th edition kind of removed that term, moved to just a generic hacker term. Because they had this, within the universe, the Matrix had crashed down, it'd rebuild up, it was all wireless, information will be free type of scenario. And one of the things in 5th edition is we realized that, deckers are just such an indelible part of what makes Shadowrun Shadowrun. So we haven't gotten rid of wireless, that's all still there. But one of that whole information will be free that felt a little not quite right for Shadowrun is that Megacorps are going to put their thumb down on anything. And so they've come back in and squashed back down on that. And so while you still can wirelessly hack various things, if you want to get into the really good pay data, you got to go on the run with your team with a cyber deck that's now a much smaller, more compact thing. Get behind those firewalls and those isolated systems and hack that out.
Right.
But one of the things you can do defensively, though, is you can, everything now is wireless. You have weapons that are wireless. And so you're able to hack into people's weapons, shut them down, eject their ammo. There's a lot of really cool, fun stuff in that side of it. I'd say probably the last two things. One is the Matrix got reworked again. Again, Shadowrun, the Matrix side of it is such a quintessential element of what makes Shadowrun Shadowrun, but it's always been the bane of the game's existence. The first one was almost unplayable, and every edition has gotten a little better. I think 4th edition absolutely did the best. We went through and really streamlined it even more, tried to make it so that all the tests and so forth that you're doing are very similar to all the normal things that you do to make it easier to use. Ultimately, we won't know how successful we were until you guys are diving into it.
Sure.
And then the last thing, and I was actually just talking about that, is a lot of people are like, why is it so freaking huge? Well, one of it is we just used a slightly thicker paper. We wanted a really deluxe, good feeling thing. But there's almost 100 pages that we added of just examples and GM advice.
Oh, that's
because
great.
Again, that was one of those things that a lot of previous editions on Shadowrun really you'd kind of get.
I just flipped to a random page here, and here's a quarter-page example that's talking about how things work.
And you know what? At the end of the day, Shadowrun is really 3 games in one. And so to even as clear and concise as we tried to be, it is a complex game. There's no doubt about it. And so we wanted to make sure that, we're going to spend the time and the effort and go ahead with the extra printing costs to try to ensure that it's as user-friendly as possible.
And this book's almost 500 pages. There's
a
lot of content.
500 pages. There is a massive amount of content.
So what we have here is the core rule book. Why don't you talk a little bit about what other books are out now and what you have in the pipeline?
Well, the first 2 that are kind of publishing simultaneously that we did are what we call they're compilations of convention missions.
Okay.
So these are missions that have been run over the years through conventions. They're extremely well received. So they've been compiled into 2 volumes called Sprawl Wilds and Firing Line. And then all the characters are dual statted. So that it's easy, you can still use them in 4th edition if you want. They're also statted for 5th edition. It also makes the transition a lot easier.
Yeah.
Again, we have quite a few other books in the pipeline. And I know I'm going to get these wrong because my brain is just really slogging down. There's Splintered States, I believe, is the name of the very first full adventure for Shadowrun. And then Stolen Souls is the first Deep Shadows book. And it starts to develop more the plot lines that are what are some of the big new secrets that are coming out. You know, again, one of the things with Shadowrun is it's always been a growing dynamic universe where, you know, it unfolds through time. We're up to 2075 when it originally started in 2050. Stormfront was a source book that we released, I think, back in March. It's a pure source book, so if anyone's picking up 5th edition and are kind of worried are you going to be able to use it, it's all 100% compatible. And it kind of pulls through all the threads of all the various plots that have been developing over years. Some of them it actually winds it up. Others it sets forward what's going to be coming with some hints and so on. And then it actually introduces some of the big new secrets that we're about ready to reveal. And so Stolen Souls is one of the first books that'll even start to reveal that even more.
Cool.
We have an introductory box set. It'll be the first one that'll be coming out. Again, some other great Pathfinder introduced their box set a year or two ago, and we took a look at that and said, absolutely, why aren't we doing that same thing?
Sure.
We also have Crossfire. That goes back to the whole, you know, making sure that no matter where you trip over, you're going to stand up with Shadowrun in your hand to be able to play with.
Sure.
Deck building game. We have the demo here at the convention that we're showing off. And then hopefully that'll be available towards the end of the year.
And if you're interested in Crossfire, we actually did a preview video of that game as well.
Oh, excellent.
That'll be on YouTube.
Yeah, no, I've played about every deck building game that there is. And again, obviously I'm going to shine it up because it's ours.
Of course.
But I really do think it's one of the best at truly being cooperative. One of the things, I mean, again, I really enjoy deck building, but often you're just sit there playing by yourself. And this one really, I think, does a great job of pulling all of the people into the run, and they've all got to be doing their jobs or you're going to fail.
And one final thing, this initial core rulebook and the other starting books, are these available widely now?
They are not available now. This is, again, just available to show the first or second week in September. This will be available along with Sprawl Wilds, and then the others that I've talked about will be available coming into the fall.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Randall.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.
And this was Shadowrun 5th edition. Got a question?
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and repeat it so that the
That's all
mic
good.
picks it up.
You might have answered this a little bit already, but the introductory box will come out for the 5th edition. Will this be with the core rules or after?
After.
So there was a question about the introductory box and when it will come out in relationship to the core rules, and it will be after.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, for some of those who have followed our Leviathan's Travails, another game line that we've done, we can be quite ambitious, and we were a little more ambitious than we maybe perhaps should have, and mainly that just comes from our passion and love of Shadowrun, and we wanted to be able to launch the introductory box set simultaneously with the core rulebook, and we just couldn't make it happen. But it is, you know, it'll be going to print here pretty quick, and sometime in the fall it'll come out.
All right. Were there any other questions?
No.
That was it. Thank you
Excellent.
very much. It was a
You bet.
pleasure.
Thank you.